Okay, here's a quick question for you. Are billionaires really such a bad thing? These days, talking about them is pretty much unavoidable, what with them racing each other to space and all. But even before these wannabe Han Solos started taking their midlife crises to new heights, literally, there's been a rising debate about whether anyone should have enough money to start their own space program in the first place. Politicians like Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Kirsten Gillibrand have all famously said that billionaires should not exist. Meanwhile, defenders have argued that implementing policies like a wealth tax would punish success, innovation, and the people who built the businesses that employ everybody else. Here's the thing. We're entering into some tricky territory, since everybody's got different interpretations of good and bad and right and wrong. So, let's take a look at some facts. Right now, the US by far has the highest number of billionaires in the world, more than the next 3 countries on the list combined. And if you measure wealth, US billionaires command more wealth than the billionaires of the next 8 countries combined. In other words, good old America loves its billionaires. And just so we're clear, earning that much money means playing on a whole different level. Let's say, for example, that you managed to miraculously stash away $5,000 a day since the frickin' pyramids were built. You would still have only managed to accumulate around a fifth of the wealth of guys like Bezos, Gates, and Buffett. Median household income in America is estimated to be $68,703 in 2019. Jeff Bezos does not make that in a day. He doesn't even make that per hour. It takes Jeff Bezos about 27.6 seconds to make that much. He makes enough for a new car and 2 Super Bowl tickets every 30 seconds. And while figures like this are certainly outrageous, they do nothing to illustrate the actual inequality at play here. Because one could argue that this huge difference in earnings is still fair if everyone pays a fair percentage of taxes on that income. Actually, high earners like B's are supposed to be paying a higher percentage than your average Joe. That's how tax brackets work. Any income you make that falls in the first bracket is taxed at 10%. And once you make enough to enter into a new bracket, only each additional dollar is taxed at the new rate, and so on and so forth until you reach the top. Any dollar you make beyond $523,601 if you're single, or $628,301 as a married couple, in theory, gets taxed at 37%. Except America's billionaires don't pay anything even close to that. On average, from 2014 to 2018, the 25 richest people only paid an effective tax rate of about 3.4%, or about a third of what people in the lowest bracket pay. And that's an average. Over that period, Warren Buffett paid an effective tax rate of 0.1%. And Bees, he paid an effective tax rate of less than 1%. And there's been multiple years where he's paid nothing at all. It would take 14.3 million average workers to accumulate the wealth of the 25 richest Americans. And if those workers paid traditional taxes on those wages, it would raise $143 billion in revenue. But those top 25 only ended up paying around $1.9 billion, or about a tenth of that. That's because billionaires don't accumulate wealth the way most of us do. Most of ours comes from wages that we earn through work. Most of their fortunes lie in stocks and in property, and you don't pay taxes on the value of those things until you sell them. So rather than sell them, they just borrow money against the value of them. The banks give them a great deal because they want the business and they know these guys are good for it. So say you want $10 million in the bank to live a lavish lifestyle. You could sell $10 million worth of stock and pay 37% in taxes, or you could borrow that same amount of money and pay only 3% of it in interest instead. It's a strategy known as buy, borrow, die. Now, defenders of these billionaires will point and say, look, these people donate millions upon millions of dollars to charity and philanthropy. And while that is true, the numbers are far less impressive when you compare the actual dollars received by beneficiaries instead of what's been pledged. Pledges are the numbers that are often publicized, but just like with politicians, pledges are easy to break. Compare actual donations to their net worth, and the 2 most generous billionaire donors are giving around 3 to 4% of their worth to charity. But they're the exception. Other top 20 billionaires like Bezos only donate about 0.3% of their net worth. Not to mention that these people are deciding who to donate based on what causes they like and how generous they feel like being. In theory, they could wake up tomorrow and say, hey, you know what? You guys are on your own. Meanwhile, an estimated 1 in 7 Americans will be living in poverty this year, and COVID is only making things worse. Virtually every country on Earth saw its economy shrink during the pandemic. Meanwhile, billionaires saw their incomes rise by over 50%. So, are billionaires inherently bad? Probably not. But a billionaire who cheats on their taxes while roads and bridges are crumbling and millions of people need help? Yeah, that is definitely a bad thing.
If there's any topic out there that's got you scratching your head and you're too scared to ask, you should totally send it our way. Tweet using the hashtag #QuickQuestion or email us at questions@brainjoltmedia.com. Don't forget to follow us, and remember, quick questions don't always have quick answers.